A woman tightly embraces another, who appears sorrowful yet carries a divine aura, while a third woman, visibly distressed, is seen leaving the scene. What exactly is happening here? Why did the renowned British poet, painter, and printmaker William Blake create a painting specifically depicting these three women? The figures in the painting are Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. The story of Ruth and Naomi, a timeless tale of loyalty, love, and divine providence, is found in the Book of Ruth in the Old Testament. It unfolds during the time of the Judges, a period marked by instability and moral decline in Israel's history. Despite this dark backdrop, Ruth's story shines as a beacon of hope and faithfulness. The narrative begins with a famine in Bethlehem, forcing Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, to move to Moab, a neighboring country often at odds with Israel. Seeking survival, they left behind their homeland and their God-centered community. In Moab, tragedy struck. Elimelech died, leaving Naomi a widow in a foreign land. Her two sons married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth, but after about 10 years, Mahlon and Chilion also died. Naomi was left bereft of her husband and sons, her life overshadowed by grief and uncertainty. Hearing that the famine in Bethlehem had ended, Naomi decided to return to her homeland. She urged her daughters-in-law to remain in Moab, where they could remarry and build new lives. Initially, both women insisted on staying with her, but Naomi pressed them, emphasizing the impossibility of her providing them with future husbands. Orpah tearfully agreed and stayed in Moab. However, Ruth clung to Naomi, uttering one of the most poignant declarations of loyalty in the Bible. "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." This commitment demonstrated Ruth's deep love for Naomi and her willingness to embrace Naomi's faith in people. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, the entire town stirred at their return. Consumed by grief, Naomi asked to be called Mara, meaning bitter, because she felt the Lord had dealt harshly with her. Ruth, however, began to work tirelessly to provide for them. During the barley harvest, Ruth gleaned in the fields to gather leftover grain for food. She happened upon the fields of Boaz, a wealthy and kind man who was also a relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz noticed Ruth's dedication and inquired about her. Upon learning of her sacrifices for Naomi, he was deeply moved and ensured that Ruth was protected and provided for in his fields. Boaz's generosity toward Ruth did not go unnoticed by Naomi. Recognizing him as a kinsman redeemer, a relative who could restore their family's honor and inheritance, Naomi devised a plan. She instructed Ruth to approach Boaz at night on the threshing floor and lie at his feet, a symbolic act of submission and a request for protection under his care. Boaz, impressed by Ruth's virtue and kindness, promised to fulfill her request if a closer kinsman declined his duty. This act of integrity highlighted Boaz's righteousness and his care for Ruth's reputation. The next day, Boaz confronted the closer kinsman, who relinquished his right to redeem Naomi's land and marry Ruth, leaving Boaz free to act. Boaz legally redeemed the property and took Ruth as his wife. Their union was blessed by the community, who prayed for Ruth to be like Rachel and Leah, the matriarchs of Israel. In time, Ruth and Boaz had a son named Obed, bringing joy and hope back to Naomi's life. Obed would later become the grandfather of King David, making Ruth, a Moabite woman, part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. Now let us return to the painting mentioned at the beginning. Naomi Entreating Ruth and Orpah to Return to the Land of Moab by William Blake. William Blake, an English poet, painter, and printmaker, was known for his visionary art and deeply spiritual works. Although largely unrecognized during his lifetime, Blake's artistic contributions are celebrated today for their unique blend of romanticism, mysticism, and biblical themes. Blake created this work in 1795, a time when religious art was becoming increasingly rare. His exploration of such themes stemmed from his personal interpretation of faith, human connection, and divine will. The story of loyalty, love, and faith deeply resonated with Blake's enduring focus on devotion and spiritual transformation. In the painting, Blake captures the three central figures, Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah, in a moment of poignant emotional intensity. The composition reflects their differing choices. Naomi's body language conveys her sorrow. Her figure is often draped in simple, somber clothing, emphasizing her grief and humility. Ruth clings to Naomi, symbolizing loyalty and faithfulness. Her determined posture and focused expression embody her steadfast decision to remain with Naomi, echoing her famous declaration, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay." On the other side, Orpah is shown turning away, symbolizing her choice to return to her people and past life. Her gesture of wiping away tears conveys the inner struggle and sorrow of parting. The interplay of light in the painting symbolizes divine guidance and the contrast between spiritual illumination and earthly attachment. Looking at this painting, one cannot help but ponder, which is more important, spiritual enlightenment or worldly attachment? If I were to forego worldly ties, would I still be able to pursue spiritual revelations? Ruth, who chose to stay, ultimately found a favorable outcome. But what about Orpah, who chose to leave and follow worldly attachments? The question lingers. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the story of Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah, and the timeless artistry of William Blake. See you next time.